The next session is going to be on contemplating the seven spheres, or the seven worlds, or various ways of understanding the mysteries of this sublime subject. We'll begin with the first quote, and hopefully you will recognize yourself in this quote.
O thou who art enamored of the covenant, the blessed beauty hath promised this servant that souls would be raised up who would be the very embodiments of guidance and banners of the concourse on high, torches of God's oneness and the stars of his pure truth, shining in the heavens where God reigneth alone. They would give sight to the blind and would make the deaf to hear. They would raise the dead to life. They would confront all the peoples of the earth, pleading their cause with proofs of the Lord of the seven spheres.
Now this is a fascinating passage. And when I first saw it, I was stunned. First of all, I had never heard of the seven spheres. And here it's describing that souls are going to be raised up who, first of all, the condition is they are enamored of the covenant, firm in the covenant, and that they would be the very embodiments of guidance. But the part that really caught my eye is they would confront all the peoples of the earth, pleading their cause with proofs of the Lord of the seven spheres. Well, it struck me that we should at least know what the seven spheres might be if we're going to actually, this is obviously a teaching device to awaken the peoples to the cause of God. And I had never heard anyone reference the seven spheres. So it really prompted my being to open up to the search for the seven spheres.
We continue with the story of the Mirage, the Ascension of Muhammad, with quote 69. The story of the Mirage of Muhammad, of whom was spoken, quote, "But for thee I would not have created the spheres," end quote. How well and true is the saying, quote, "Flingest thou thy calumnies unto the face of them whom the one true God hath made the trustees of the treasures of his seventh sphere," end quote. How truly hath he said, quote, "All human attainment moveth upon a lame ass, while truth, riding upon the wind, darteth across space. By the righteousness of God, whoso desireth to fathom the mystery of this mirage, and craveth a drop from this ocean, if the mirror of his heart be already obscured by the dust of these learnings, he must need cleanse and purify it, ere the light of this mystery can be reflected therein."
Now, I had come across this in the Kitabi Gan, and I realized that it tied to some other passages, particularly in Seven Valleys, where it speaks of taking flight in the Spirit. I knew that in Tablet of the Holy Mariner, it talks about taking flight in the Spirit. And here it's talking about those who basically attain to the level where they are, in a sense, riding upon the wind, darting across space. So I connected that this is speaking of such a stage of development. And that the spheres, I connected then to the seven valleys, where he says in every valley you will find a world. And I realized that the concept of a sphere is actually the concept of a world, but not, and there's other passages that tell us, not just a shape of a world, but that it symbolizes a world of invisible reality as much as anything. This is a reference to the famous story that is in Islam, the story of Muhammad, who went to the place where the ancient temple of Israel had been left in ruins, except for the one wall. And there he, on his horse, ascended the seven heavens. It's a famous story and well noted in Islamic tradition. However, here Baha'u'llah is referring to it, but he's also referring to it as if you believe it basically to be obscured with the dust of these learnings, he's referring to the interpretation that actually this happened literally, that Muhammad rode a horse into the heavens. He's really trying to tell us, I hope you're not caught up in that literal interpretation, but if you are, you won't be able to understand the inner mystery of it. But if your heart has been cleansed and it's purified, then this mystery can be reflected in your heart. The basic idea is in Seven Valleys, he mentions that as we go through the various valleys, we will notice that there's a world, a sphere, a all-encompassing reality that comes with the heavens. And I'm suggesting to you that the heavens are the realities that each of the manifestations in the chain of seven that Muhammad taught represents one of these great truths that created a world of consciousness. And that each time one came, there was a world of consciousness. And Muhammad is saying he traversed the seven heavens, and he was speaking of this idea. The first is brought by the prophet Adam. The second is brought by Noah. The third is brought by Abraham. The fourth by Moses. The fifth by Jesus. The sixth by Muhammad himself. And the seventh is he who is yet to come. And as we know, this was the Bab. These are the seven that were taught in Islam. Six that had happened, and the final one was no longer going to be prophetic, it was the fulfillment. And when the Mahdi would come in Sunni, when the Qaim would come in Shia. Now here Baha'u'llah is saying that he quotes the Quran when it says, "Flingest thou thy calumnies unto the face of them whom the one true God hath made the trustees of the treasuries of his seventh sphere." Basically, why are you persecuting the people of the seventh sphere? Those who have been given the trust of the seventh sphere, why are you attacking them? He's quoting the Quran to say that when you attack the Bab, you are attacking that one who came with the seventh sphere. Now, when we go back and see that in that previous quote, that there's the one who's going to be the Lord of the seven spheres, I'm suggesting Baha'u'llah is coming to say he's come to, in a way, fulfill the hopes of the seventh one by bringing the eighth and the ninth. Remember in the session we just had where I mentioned that Baha'u'llah came with a new beginning and a new end. The Bab closed off the old way of thinking, but he also began the new way of thinking. In a strange way, you see the Bab as the end of the old and the beginning of the new. He's the valley of search for the revelation of Baha'u'llah, and he's the fulfillment of all the hopes that Islam had of answering all the issues and questions. So when you study the Bab, you're seeing how the Bab answers all the dilemmas that the Quran had presented and all the illusions that the clergy had built around the Islamic revelation. So he's, in a sense, here saying that we have to fly to a higher level. We have to purify our hearts of the ancient interpretations of this phenomena, and that he will reveal to the heart of the cleansed heart the true meaning of the seven spheres. And I am making a humble attempt at trying to bring some clarity with Baha'u'llah's writings on this subject. So the seven spheres were first referred to by Muhammad, and now Baha'u'llah is, and it's also in the Baha'i writings. Now we're going to try to see how we can unravel the mystery of these seven spheres. Obviously, Seven Valleys is connected to this journey through the spheres.